Hello friends, Christian Carter with Radius Financial Group. Today we're talking about the VA loan once again. More specifically, we're talking about VA loan entitlement, right? There's a bunch of different types of entitlement, so we're gonna go through, talk about each one, hopefully try and take this very complicated subject and kind of dumb it down into layman's terms, what this VA loan entitlement is all about, right? So without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so first up on the list, what is the VA loan entitlement, right? Let's give a real quick definition of what the VA loan entitlement is. Essentially, the VA loan entitlement is the dollar amount that the Department of Veteran Affairs will guarantee on each VA home loan. And this helps determine how much a veteran can borrow before needing a down payment. So essentially, a VA loan or a VA entitlement is typically either $36,000 or 25% of the loan amount. All right, now there are two different types of VA loan entitlement, right? We have a veteran's basic entitlement, and then we have a veteran's bonus entitlement, right? Now, we're going to talk right now just about the basic entitlement, right? Now, that basic VA loan entitlement is going to be $36,000, but that's not going to allow you to qualify for that much of a home. And I'll show you why on this awesome whiteboard. All right, so here's a quick example of how basic entitlement works, right? So, like we said before, the VA pledges up to 25% of the loan amount. If you don't understand that yet, don't worry, I promise you will by the end of the video, right? So if we have a basic entitlement of $36,000, we essentially take this entitlement, we multiply it by 4, and we get a loan amount of $144,000, right? So what that means is that if you wanted to buy a home for $144,000 or less, you could do so with the VA loan and your basic entitlement, and you would not have to make a down payment, right? Because the loan amount is going to be $144,000 or lower. You're buying a home for $144,000 or lower, so your basic entitlement will cover that, right? Now, here's the tricky part. Not the tricky part, but here's the interesting part, right? The VA loan or the VA understands that most homes, especially nowadays, are a lot more than $144,000. But the VA still wants you or wants their veterans to be able to buy a home without making a down payment, right? So the VA has come up with bonus entitlement. All right, so let's get into bonus entitlement, right? So bonus entitlement, this comes into play for loan amounts over $144,000, right? Which honestly, in today's day and age, is going to be most of the VA mortgages out there, right? So bonus entitlement plays a part in most VA loans, right? Quick side note, we're not going to get into it during this video. It's going to be a whole separate video, but this kind of lays the groundwork for how a veteran can have two VA loans at the same time. That's a myth that we need to dispel as well. But like I said, that's a whole nother video, but this does lay the groundwork for how a veteran can have two VA loans at the same time. Let's get back on track. Bonus entitlement. The best way to explain this is to give an example, right? So let's say the veteran wants to buy a home for $600,000, right? The veteran does not want to make a down payment, so their loan amount is going to be $600,000. Their total VA entitlement, is going to be $150,000. Now, how did I get that number? We remember that the VA will guarantee 25% of the loan amount via entitlement, right? So we take 25% of 600,000 and we get 150 grand. So that is that veteran's total entitlement based off of a purchase price and a loan amount of 600 grand. Staying with me? I hope so. Now, how do we figure out their bonus entitlement, right? Very simple. Their basic entitlement, $36,000. Most likely that is not going to change. It's going to, their basic entitlement is going to stay at 36 grand, which means their bonus entitlement is 114 grand. Again, how I got that number was I took their total entitlement on this particular loan and this particular property of 150 grand, subtracted their basic entitlement of $36,000, got a bonus entitlement of $114,000. Now, I hope you're starting to understand this. If you're not, I'm really going to confuse you, because now we're going to go into things like maximum loan amounts and stuff like that. So let's keep this train rolling. All right, now let's get really crazy and let's talk about maximum loan limits, and then let's talk about conforming loan limits, and then let's talk about high cost counties, right? All right, sounds good. Sounds like a plan. All right, now there is no maximum loan amount on the VA loan, right? There's no maximum loan amount. This is 100% up to the individual lender, because as we know, the VA does not issue mortgages directly. They will guarantee most times 25% of the loan amount that a private lender is lending out, right? So for example, you can't go to the VA and get a VA mortgage, but you can go to a place like Radius and get a VA mortgage, right? So again, there is no maximum VA loan amount. This is totally up to the individual lender. Now to make things even more confusing, let's talk about VA conforming loan limits, right? Now, when we're talking about VA conforming loan limits, this is when you, as long as you have full entitlement, you absolutely, will not have to make a down payment, right? So the conforming loan limit, let's say in North Dakota, is $766,550. So if you buy a home for in North Dakota and you don't want to make a down payment and your loan amount is 766 or lower, you can use the VA loan and not make a down payment, right? Now let's talk about some of the higher cost counties, right? California has a lot of these. Hawaii has a lot of these. New York, Massachusetts has a couple. Virginia, definitely. So let's say you want to buy a home in California for a little over 1.1 million. Well, in many areas of California, the VA conforming loan limit is $1,149,825. That's a lot of money. So in these high cost counties in California, if you were using the VA loan, you would not have to make a down payment. Now, if you are going for a loan or a purchase price higher than this amount in North Dakota or higher than this amount in California, now we're getting into jumbo territory, and that's when it's going to be up to the individual lender whether or not you are going to have to make a down payment on your VA loan. I hope that helps. We're going to end this video with an easier subject. We're going to talk about entitlement, right? Partial and full. So let's get right into it. All right, this next part is actually pretty straightforward. So we're going to be talking about full entitlement and then partial entitlement, right? So full entitlement, essentially there's two kind of categories here, right? If you have never used the VA loan before, then you have your full entitlement, right? If you have used the VA loan before, but you've paid that back entirely, meaning you bought a home with the VA loan and then you sold that home and paid off the mortgage, you have full entitlement, right? So long story short, if you have full entitlement, you're probably not going to have to make a down payment when you use that VA loan again or for the first time. Now, if you have partial entitlement, you are probably, most likely, going to have to make some sort of down payment, right? Now, partial entitlement would mean if you had an active VA loan. So this is kind of what we alluded to earlier. If you currently own a home and there's a VA mortgage on it and you want to keep that home and rent it out and then buy another home with the VA loan, you would have partial entitlement and you would have to make a small down payment on that next purchase, right? Also, this is a good one, allowed a VA loan assumption. This is not something we see a lot of times, but the VA loan is assumable, meaning someone else, even a non-veteran, can come in and assume your VA loan if you give them permission, of course. And if you do give them permission, you're going to have partial entitlement moving forward. And then last up here on the list, lost a VA loan to foreclosure. So that would result in partial entitlement as well. So, like I said, wanted to end on an easy note here. Full entitlement, partial entitlement, pretty straightforward. I hope this helps. All right, that's all she wrote. I hope you enjoyed this week's video, all about the VA loan and entitlement and things like that. If you have more questions about VA loan entitlements, VA loans in general, anything real estate related or mortgage related, please leave it in the comments below. That way I can make another video on that topic. Also, if you did like this video, I would really love it if you can give it a thumbs up. That does tend to help my channel. And what also helps my channel even more is if you subscribe. That way you won't miss any videos. Other than that, again, hope you enjoyed this week's video, and we'll see you next week. Adios.